Hello, aspirants. Welcome back to Believers IS Academy. In today's topic of the day discussion, we will be understanding India's plight with respect to its net FDI or the net foreign direct investments, right? So, based on a very recent data which is released by the RBI, it has found out that the net FDI inflow fell by 159% in the month of August, and this is obviously a very concerning data because it means that more money left India than what actually came in. So now let's simply understand what FDI is, because the FDI is a very important tool, or let's say a very important means as to how the foreign dollars actually come into the Indian market, right? So if we have to see the definition of what FDI is in simple terms, it is when a foreign company invests directly in India, either in factories, offices, or for the businesses. It helps creates jobs, technology transfer, and also ultimately it aids in economic growth. So going one step further with respect to what FDI is, we have to also study about what FPI is also, because there are two types of means, or let's say we say that there are two means as to how the foreign investments come to India. So one is the FDI, that is your foreign direct investment. Another one is FPI. So what is FDI? What is FPI? In simple terms, any investment that cross more than 10% of a particular company, or let's say in any investment is beyond 10% in a particular company, so we categorize them as FDI, and anything less than 10% we categorize them as FPI. So be it 1%, 2%, 3, 5, 7, we categorize them as foreign portfolio investment. So now what is another important difference? That this FDI is pretty much long term, right? The investment made through FDI route is pretty much long term, and you can also say that the liquidity is also very less in terms of FDI. But on the contrary, FPI, they are pretty much like a short term investment for these foreign officials, or let's say foreign investors who invest in Indian companies, and this is also pretty much liquid as compared to your FDI. So this is the basic understanding as to what FDI is. Basically, it is a means of investment, especially in terms of foreign currency, that happens in India. And there are two channels, FDI and FPI. So if investments happen beyond 10%, we classify them as FDI, and anything that happens less than 10%, we classify them as FPI. So now what happened in August, right? Because the data of RBI, it states that August 2025, it has witnessed a negative net FDI, right? So now what has happened? So we have found that the Indian foreign direct investment, the net foreign direct investment fell by 159%, means more money left India than what actually came. Means if this is India and let's say if this is US, so in place of $1 that came to India, from India, it went like, let's say, $3, or let's say $3 is what went out, right? So this is what is the simple depiction of what happened, for which the rate fell by 159%. So in fact, it is also said that this is the second time this year where such an outflow which they have witnessed, and first was actually in the month of May 2025. Of course, we will also try and understand what is the reason, right? But even before that, it is also important to know that in the month of May 2025, very recently, 6 months before, we also came across another news by the government, where the government claims that India records 81.04 billion US dollars FDI inflow in financial year 2024-25, and this FDI inflow grows by 14%, right? So now this is pretty much contradictory, like if it has to sound that way, but there is a catch, because see, whenever we calculate FDI, right, there are two measures of FDI. One is the gross FDI inflows, and next is the net FDI. So what is gross FDI? So basically, what is gross FDI? That is the total money that foreign investors bring into India to buy equity or set up factories, or probably to invest in India. So let's go back to the same example here. Let's say USA is investing, let's say, $1 in India for some company here, and the government is only calculating or considering this $1 which came from US, right? So this basically is your gross FDI. So that means that the government is completely ignoring, or it is not considering the gross outflow of the country, right? Because from India, the very same moment when $1 investment came to India, $3 went outside the country, correct? So now the government of India claimed in 2025 May that the gross inflow of FDI rose by 14%, which means this is just the calculation based on the gross FDI that just actually came into India. But what left from India is not calculated, and that is what is calculated when we talk about net FDI. So net FDI, basically it's the gross inflows of the FDI minus the money that leaves India through repatriation, disinvestment by foreign firms, and even the outward FDI by Indian companies, as in even the Indian companies which invest in the foreign companies, right? So when we say net FDI, we are basically subtracting the net, or let's say the FDI that India received minus this. So here in this case, $1 minus $3. So basically, what is the net FDI now? It is minus $2, right? So now the recent RBI data or the RBI analysis that did, so the RBI has released the net FDI. So the government's USD, which is your 81.04 billion US dollar figure, is the total inflows before subtracting the outflows. And what RBI has given as a part of their August data is the net figure after subtracting what went out from the country. So now let's understand what happened recently in August 2025, which made us see this huge drop of 159%. So one is the gross FDI inflows in the August 2025. It was $6 billion US dollars, right? And the outflows in the very same month in terms of repatriation, disinvestment, and outward FDI, it was 6.6 billion. So as we can see, more number of dollars went out of the country, went out of India in terms of repatriation. Even let's say the foreign companies, they thought of disinvesting, and then they sold it, or probably they took out for profits, right? And also let's say some of the Indian firms, even they invested outside India as well. So that was too high, $6.6 billion. And so the next net FDI for that particular month is $616 million, meaning more money left than what actually entered. So now, what is the bigger picture? Is it very concerning that the government has to worry, or the RBI has to take immediate actions? Well, let's see. Over 5 months, the net FDI was 10.1 billion US dollars, which was actually 121% higher than the last year, right? Considering from the last 5 months. So even though 1 or 2 months, which has shown this temporary, let's say, reduction, or the major outflows that went outside India, overall, the India condition, the economy condition, the FDI or the net FDI is still net positive, doing better than before. Because these minor shocks, you absolutely don't have to worry, because there will be a particular time in every year where the net FDI actually increases, and sometimes it even decreases. And these are for various reasons, because one of the major reason is probably the growing interest rates outside the country. Let's say the global interest rates are increasing, right? And also let's say the investors want just the profits, they take out the profits, and then probably they move to the country. And also there could be other reasons. Let's say foreign interest rates are increasing, so more and more people from India wants to increase in, or let's say invest in the foreign market. So that is also one of the reasons, right? So there could be a lot of reasons. And especially in the month of May, we have seen a huge fluctuation in the market, right? So that is also one of the biggest reason for this huge drop, right? So now, what is the real takeaway? Now, from the aspirant's point of view, you just have to keep in mind to take away, or to see things in a broader way, right? So for us, it is important to see that India remains one of the top FDI destinations. So this is what is actually matters. This what matters, because if we see the total FDI inflows, and with respect to top destination or most favored country, India is currently the top FDI destinations. And in terms of the FDIs that we are receiving, the top one, Singapore, stands at number one, where we have received more than 30% of FDIs. For it, followed by, we have Mauritius, and then we have USA, right? And if we also try and see which are the most FDI receiving states in the country. First is the Maharashtra, second is your Karnataka, and third is Delhi. Correct. So these facts obviously plays an important role, and it is important that you remember these important facts. So the real takeaway is, although that we are pretty much seeing the reduction in the net FDI, still India remains at the top to be, I know, preferred as the top FDI destinations with $81 billion in just in the year 2024-25, and this is a proof of long-term investor confidence, right? And look at the countries who are investing, Singapore and Mauritius and, USA and all of those countries, right? So it proves that there is investor confidence in India, and this is one such moment that is pretty much sufficient, and this is what is key to remember for the aspirants. And also it is important to understand the monthly net outflows like what we saw in August 2025. It is an indication, and it reminds us that the global investors are currently mostly profit oriented, and then they are pretty much taking the profits out, and Indian firms are also investing abroad. And also capital flows can be pretty much volatile month to month depending on certain geopolitical aspects also, right? So that is what is also another important takeaway from this particular video. So that's all for this particular video. I hope you have understood. So nothing much to worry about all these minute data. Just have a broader picture as to what is happening for India in terms of the FDI, or even for that matter inflation, and even for that matter the GDP growth, right? All of these things matter on a trend basis, right? On a trend, what happens on a period time, like it's pretty much like you have to see it like a flow concept rather than a stock concept. Correct. So that is all for this particular video. Signing off, this is Madan Gopal. Have a wonderful day.